Welcome. Dr. Epic here. And what we're going to discuss today is the great linguistic debate of the 21st century, Noam Chomsky and Daniel Everett. We're going to talk about everyone's favorite subject, grammar. Talk about the debate over the structure of language and over the structure of human language acquisition. And finally, we will discuss the little pony at the zoo. So there's the outline right up above me. And let's go ahead and get started. And all of this starts with this book, which is right over there. Don't Sleep, There Are Snakes, written by that submerged fellow right up above me, and that is Daniel Everett. Daniel Everett, in a series of articles in the 1990s and early 2000s, appears to have discovered a language, Piraha, which isn't supposed to exist in the way that it does, according to how we understand language to work. How linguists over the last 50 years thought languages were supposed to be structured. Piraha violated many of the rules that they thought had existed. So before we go any further, let's actually listen to a native speaker of Piraha speak this language, which is impossible, this impossible language. And as you listen to Piraha, there's about a minute or so of Piraha, I want you to focus on the size of the utterances. They should be quite small, and how it sounds, and the conciseness and incredible small-scale utility of the language.
Just bring it up towards me.
And that's this language that, according to Noam Chomsky, shouldn't exist. Certainly not in the form it is. So before we have to explain to you why Piraha shouldn't exist, we have to actually talk about how language structures are supposed to exist and how something like syntactic structures, the book right up above me, changed our perception of human languages and established this paradigm of language structure that Daniel Everett proceeded to crack. This is where the information from this lecture is pulled from. The syntactic structures itself, Chomsky's Universal Grammar, Don't Sleep, There Are Snakes, and Daniel Everett's other books, and as well as Chomsky's Defenders right there. I want to give my own little sort of bibliography of where this information is coming from. So, we're going to talk about language structures. We're going to talk about utterances or sentences. So, an utterance, a sentence, is comprised of phrases. How the sentences are put together is grammar, but how the phrases themselves are constructed is called syntax. Often some linguists will simply conflate the two and they call it syntactic grammar and not split hairs exactly what is a phrase, what is syntax, what is a sentence, what is grammar. So when we start talking about syntax, we need a small introduction to grammar. So grammar for dummies, there we go. So what is grammar? Grammar, generally defined, are general rules used to create meaningful utterances, like the example up above. Bob went to the store. But that also raises the question, do we really need grammar, or do we need to use grammar all the time? And the answer is, frankly, no. Humans are capable of producing non-grammatical meaningful utterances. There's the question up there. Where did Bob go? Here's the answer. To the store. That answer is not grammatically correct. The response is ungrammatical, yet it is still meaningful. It answers the previous prompt. Now, this has caused no end of difficulty for linguists, as one of the aspects of human language and human language structures is that human language possesses that contradiction right up above me, which is that while language systems possess formal rules for the creation of meaningful utterances, humans do not actually have to use them. That we might have a concept of grammar, but we don't necessarily have to use the grammar, at least not all the time. And on top of this, grammars themselves have become a way to determine status and social class. Someone who is elite, someone who is high status, is going to use proper grammar. Now, look at those fellows on the left. They're going to use proper grammars. They're going to have a really good vocabulary because those guys are macaroni. That's what I'm saying. Those guys are just pure macaroni. Look at that. Look at that tie. It's macaroni. At any rate, social elites determine what they consider to be proper speech as a way to distinguish themselves from the unwashed masses below them. Now, Britain and England had this fairly rigid class structure, one where you more or less stayed in the social class that you were born into. Hence, in English, status was generally displayed by intimate knowledge of a colossal vocabulary, which is that explosion of English that we talked about earlier. And in one's speech, one can immediately tell the social status of the speaker. The more educated the speech, the more evident the elite education, the wealthier the individual, the higher the social class, because the better level of education they had received. Those macaroni fellows on the left are not going to speak in a non-grammatical way. So, while language systems possess formal rules for the creation of meaningful utterances, humans do not actually have to use these rules. And this has set up kind of an irreconcilable divide within linguistics. What is the proper way to study language and language structures? Do we study them from the perspective of the way the language is supposed to work, the grammar, or do we study them the way in which people actually use the language? And this is the divide between empiricists and theoreticians. Empiricists study what people actually say, while theoreticians study idealized, grammatically correct forms of the language residing in our heads. Now, Noam Chomsky, up there on the upper left, is the latter. He is a theoretician. Daniel Everett, right up above me, is an empiricist. Daniel Everett goes out into the jungle and speaks with people and listens to what they're actually saying. Noam Chomsky stays in his office and looks at these compiled data and comes up with theories of language structure. Now, prior to 1957, the general consensus was that languages, more or less, could only be studied in terms of themselves, which is to say, rules about English grammar and rules about English pronunciation could only really be applied to English language and so on. But in 1957, that fellow over there, Noam Chomsky, then a young graduate student at MIT, wrote a book, probably one of the most influential books on human language, Syntactic Structures. There it is right there. Syntactic Structures, 1957. And in this book, Chomsky argued that all languages possess the same set of grammatical organizational elements within a range of finite principles and parameters. Noam Chomsky studied every known human language and said all languages basically fit into a single universal grammar. These idealized, grammatically correct languages can all be analyzed through a study of their syntactic structure, which is to say, how the constructed phases fit together. Hence, you might have all these different languages with their own grammar, but ultimately there is only a single universal grammar, often simply expressed as UG, that applies to all languages. And if Chomsky was correct, and UG is used by all languages, this strongly suggests that grammatical structures are hardwired into our brains. So let's look at how UG actually works. Okay. This is how UG works. There's right up above me. You have a sentence, that's S. All utterances, sentences, are comprised of 3 different types of phrases. Again, how phrases are constructed is syntax. You have an NP, which is a noun phrase. You have a VP, which is a verb phrase. Then you have PP, which is your prepositional phrase. So a sentence up above, a sentence consists of an NP plus a VP. But the exact phrase can be changed out. If you look at on the left, here we have a list of NPs and a list of VPs. And you can switch all of these and create meaningful utterances. The boy threw the ball. The boy jumped. The boy danced. The student ate the salad. The professor barked. The professor threw the ball. The mailman danced. See, you have these interchangeable noun phrases and verb phrases. PPs, prepositional phrases, are used to modify NPs or VPs and as such are optional. The whole thing is generally written according to the syntactical diagram on the left. This is called a phrase structure tree, and it notes the relationship of various phrases to each other. It charts the syntactic structure. All utterances are based on a single set of syntactic structures. So up above, I've taken the NPs and VPs from the previous slide, and we've added in prepositional phrases. And we can put this either after the noun phrase or after the verb phrase. The boy with the long hair barked with a clamshell. Kind of an odd sentence, but it is grammatically correct. The professor in a dark closet ate the salad with the long hair. Don't order from that restaurant. There's hairs in the salad. Good Lord. Now, we'll return to grammatical structure in a bit, but let's specifically address phrase structure, syntax. Now, phrase structures are made up of the following elements. You have NPs. NPs, noun phrases, are made up of determiners, which is right up there, which is usually glossed as DET, adjectives, which are ADJ, and nouns, which are N. Hence, you have the following noun phrase, the fat windbag. It has a determiner, the adjective fat, and the noun windbag. And that is combined with a VP, verb phrase. And a verb phrase consists of an auxiliary, which is an AUX, a determiner, DET, and adverbs, ADV, as well as verbs, which are V. Hence, in that example, will not stop quickly. Will is the auxiliary, not is the determiner, stop is the verb, and quickly is the adverb. And here we have a prepositional phrase, a PP, which modifies the preceding noun verb phrase. And a PREP is comprised of a preposition plus a noun phrase. In is the preposition, and the noun phrase is the hall, which again, as per the previous rules, consists of a determiner and a noun. So then we have our entire sentence put together. The fat bin windbag will not stop quickly in the hall. The noun phrase, the verb phrase, and the prepositional phrase. And the prepositional phrase also contains a noun phrase inside of it. That's called a recursion. There is the syntactic structure in the phrase structure tree right up above me for the following sentence. The little dog will bark loudly at the mailman. It's a noun phrase, the little dog, and the noun phrase is syntactically constructed out of a determiner, an adjective, and a noun. And then the verb phrase, which is constructed out of an auxiliary, a verb, and then an adverb, will bark loudly. And then the prepositional phrase, which is the preposition and a noun phrase, at the mailman. That's the syntactic structure of that sentence up above. Now, I told you there was going to be a pony at the end. The small pony in the zoo is very cute. What I want you to do is write down this sentence in your notes and develop a phrase structure tree, just like we did with the dog barking at the mailman. Where is the noun phrase? Where is the verb phrase? Where is the prepositional phrase? That's the overall syntactic structure. And then construct how each phrase fits together. Do that in your notes, because I'm going to put it on the quiz. So in summation, the phrase structure rules for English will indicate, and the parentheses indicate that something is optional. So any utterance, any sentence consists of, at minimum, a noun phrase and a verb phrase. Noun phrases have an optional determiner, an optional adjective, a mandatory noun, and an optional prepositional phrase. A VP, a verb phrase, possesses an optional adverb, a verb, which is the element that you can't get rid of, as well as optional noun phrases, adverbs, or prepositional phrases. And then you have the prepositional phrase, which consists of the necessary preposition as well as the noun phrase that modifies the preposition. The fat man ate quickly at the new restaurant. And there it is. There's no phrase structure tree for here. This is just the noun phrase, the verb phrase, and the prepositional phrase. The fat man is the noun phrase. Ate quickly is the verb phrase. At the new restaurant is the prepositional phrase. And within the prepositional phrase, recursively placed, the new restaurant is the noun phrase. Please note that there is a critical mechanism that we've already encountered, in which you put phrases inside of other phrases. For instance, the boy threw the ball to the dog. That's a noun phrase, a verb phrase, another noun phrase, and a prepositional phrase. But the second noun phrase is actually inside the verb phrase. The direct object is an NP that is directly inside the VP. As indeed all direct objects are constructed that way. That act of putting one phrase inside of another phrase, that is a linguistical device called recursion. And that ends up being both the central element of Chomsky's argument as well as its weak point. Because we're going to introduce and bring in Daniel Everett to challenge universal grammar in the next lecture.